In our collective work for climate justice, we're often focused on the fossil fuel industry and corporations as primarily responsible for the crisis. And let's be clear, they are. According to the Global Carbon Budget, in 2024, global carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuels, cement, and other industry like steel production reached a record high of approximately 37.4 billion metric tons, a 0.8% increase from 2023. But we want to talk about who makes polluters disregard for our lives and futures possible in the first place. Our governments. Federal and state governments provide billions in subsidies, including tax breaks and incentives to oil, gas, and coal industries, which reduce costs and encourage continued extraction and use of fossil fuels over renewables. Additionally, the federal government leases public lands and waters at low cost for fossil fuel extraction, completely undermining the impacts on the natural environment and nearby communities. According to the Environmental Energy Study Institute and the International Monetary Fund, United States fossil fuel subsidies totaled $757 billion in 2022. Of that, $3 billion were explicit subsidies, meaning tax breaks, grants, or direct cash payments to fossil fuel companies, and $754 billion were implicit subsidies, meaning the amount that the broader public, including taxpayers, pay for in environmental degradation, such as air and water pollution, and associated health impacts that are caused by fossil fuel projects, but not paid for by fossil fuel companies. Subsidized utilities are also an issue. Some state utilities rely heavily on coal or gas generation, but are shielded by government policies that pass costs onto consumers, deterring the shift to renewable energy. And we can't forget transportation policies. A significant portion of federal transportation funding, often coming from the Highway Trust Fund, is allocated towards maintaining and expanding highways rather than building enough EV charging networks or supporting clean transit alternatives. The truth is, our own governments are the biggest drivers of the climate crisis. They set the rules, and tying their hands is the only solution. How? Securing our climate rights. This is where Youth v. Gov comes in. Our youth-led climate lawsuits are working to secure universal recognition of our constitutional climate rights. Rights our governments would then be required to honor and uphold. For example, in 2023, the 16 youth plaintiffs in Held v. State of Montana secured a landmark victory, which was upheld in 2024 by the Montana Supreme Court. The plaintiffs asserted that Montana's actions promoting fossil fuels violated their constitutional rights to a clean and healthful environment, and the court enshrined into law science-based protections for children's most fundamental rights. As a result, Montana will now have to consider greenhouse gas emissions, climate change, and climate impacts on its youth when permitting fossil fuel projects, marking a turning point in Montana's energy policy. In Navahina v. Hawaii Department of Transportation, 13 young plaintiffs reached a historic settlement agreement with the governor of Hawaii and the Department of Transportation to fully decarbonize the state's ground, sea, and inner island air transportation by 2045. And in our newest lawsuit, Reynolds v. Florida Public Service Commission, 6 young Floridians are suing the Public Service Commission, the state's only agency responsible for long-range energy planning and regulation, which has locked the state in decades of fossil fuel dependency, ultimately exacerbating the climate crisis, endangering the lives of young people across Florida, and violating their state constitutional rights to life and to enjoy and defend life. Youth v. Gov is committed to representing children and youth in rights-based climate litigation at no cost to ensure they have a safe, livable climate for generations to come.